On Sunday, of course, we went through the book of Job. Again, if you haven't had a chance to view that, please take a moment, carve out some time today or this weekend to do that. Today, though, I want to focus on something interesting, or rather a question. What does the circus and Job have in common? I remember as a kid, my first time ever going to the circus. I think it was in Rockford, Illinois at the time. It's been quite a few years ago. But I can remember as I went during one of the particular acts, I believe it was the high wire act, the individuals having a safety net that was underneath of that particular set of the overall program for the circus that day. I don't remember anybody falling, of course, but you have probably seen those kinds of things as gymnasts. Perhaps practice that sometimes they have that safety net underneath that if there's ever a flaw perhaps in their performance in some way, or as they're practicing trying to get those routines down, that they have something to catch them and protect them. That concept was coming to mind as we talk about the book of Job, and particularly it was drawn out this week as one of our church members here emailed me about some further thoughts that they had on the book. They had commented that as they were reading it, they were struck by chapters 1 and 2 and the fact, again, that Job lost everything. And you can remember we talked about that on Sunday. He's lost his family. He's lost his possessions. He's in this spiritual crisis at the same time. And there's nothing back to fall on. And the church member had remarked that often when we go through crisis, we turn back to something. We often have something, the death of a family member. We often, as a family, often rally together to support one another. Here in the church, when there's a crisis happening, we often rally around that person as a church. Perhaps when financially, when something hits us, as a planner, as some wisdom I had taken many years ago, I try to keep a few months' salary in the bank in my savings account just in case something ever happens. So there's that to fall back on, that safety net, if you will. And we often have those safety nets in our lives, whether that be our family, whether that be the church, whether that be something financially. And that's a good thing, I think. It's great to have that kind of support, that network of individuals, of people, particularly in times of grief and crisis, to go to and to be to pray for each other, to encourage each other in the midst of those things. But as you come to the book of Job, that draws out perhaps the faith of Job, as this member mentioned, all the more. The fact that he did not have anything, he's really only left with a couple of options. One of those being, which his wife mentioned, curse God and die, or that he continues to trust in the Lord. And my mind personally was just directed to a verse from the Psalms. In fact, something that David wrote, written not specifically on this subject, but it deals well with it. He says in Psalm 20, verse 7, "Some trust in chariots and others in horses, but we depend on the Lord our God." In other words, in those particular circumstances, particularly militarily, there's the confidence in the number of horses, the number of soldiers and chariots and things that you have to win the war. David's saying, we trust in the Lord. And it brings us to really that matter of faith and what safety nets we have in our life. It may be people, it may be a family, the church, possessions, any number of things. What are those things we turn to? And really, as that church member brought this out, my question to myself and my question for you is, what is our first safety net in life? Who or what do we turn to first in the midst of the crisis? Do we look immediately to money to pull us out of the situation? Do we turn immediately to family members? Do we turn immediately to the church? Or is God first and foremost our safety net? The one we turn to, the one we have faith in, even amidst what's going on. Now, I'm not blaming us if we turn to family, the church, or if we look to, hey, do I have something financially to get me out of this? But I think, again, first and foremost, our thought ought to be the Lord, even if it is a simple prayer of, you know what, Lord, I'm in this mess right now. I need your help. Or, Lord, my heart is grieved. Please bring comfort to it. Lord, I don't understand the situation. Please help me in this. Even if it's just a few short words, it's an acknowledgement first and foremost, or it's an acknowledgement that we are dependent upon the Lord. Not just for salvation, but for everything. In the book of Acts, I believe it's in chapter 17, verse 5, it says that God has given us life and breath and everything. So we are ultimately dependent upon him. Even in these times of crisis, he should be that first resource, that first person that we turn to. Acknowledging our dependence upon him, acknowledging that we need his help as we perhaps turn to those other things as well. Just a few more thoughts from the book of Job for you today. Pray that gives you something perhaps to evaluate a few things in your life, perhaps to encourage you in, and ultimately to build up and strengthen your faith. On Sunday, just a quick reminder that if you are with us this coming Sunday, May 26th, that we will have a guest speaker, so all services will actually be posted a little bit later in the